I know it's winter legends, but turn up that air conditioning because this video is about to be very, very hot. And cringeworthy introductions aside, what I want to talk to you about is something that we've been covering on this YouTube channel for a little bit of time, to do with the very, very long-term kind of falling wedge patterns that Bitcoin has been producing in the market that look a little bit like this, and where this could take Bitcoin. I've got a bittersweet bit of analysis to share with you guys, which the Moon Boys are going to hate me for, but something that actually looks really, really nice, because the last times Bitcoin has pulled something off like this, we've seen absolutely insane percentage gains, like a 10x or even way more than that. I'm going to be covering a lot with you in this video. It's a very, very in-depth one. If you're excited for it, do me a favor and smash up those likes as we're getting started in this YouTube video. Double check that you're subscribed as well, so you don't miss out on this very time-sensitive content. Got the bell icon checked as well for the same reasons. And like I said, guys, the contents of this video, when I get to the end, you're going to see something that's quite bittersweet, talking about a potential permanent top for Bitcoin. This is going to be a really hard idea for many of you to digest right now, but by the time you get to the end of this video, I think you're really going to see eye to eye with me, or at least understand why I'm saying this. I don't necessarily believe that this is the case, but this is a hell of an interesting theory, and it is something that's worth bringing to your attention. It's definitely something that I'm strongly considering. But this is all to do, first of all, with these falling wedges that Bitcoin forms, right? And Bitcoin has had a history now of forming kind of wedges that look something a little bit like this. I mean, how exactly you draw them doesn't matter hugely, but something to do with this kind of pattern. Again, another one back here. And this is something that Bitcoin has printed that pretty much goes from, the start of our bear markets right up to the end. Right, taking a look at this, potentially indicating that we could do something similar right now, and it even applies to this bit of price action right here. And I've actually got a chart that very neatly shows you the same thing. And what I want to draw your attention to is that we're typically getting 3 hits of our support line, right? So you take a look at our kind of support hits, and I want to pay less attention to what's been happening, like, back in 2011, 2012, and even to some extent back in 2014, although this does look pretty accurate. The thing is we're just getting this broadly similar kind of, tightening, downward trending, kind of market direction, which lasts a very, very long time. And I've got time frames that I'm going to share with you in just a minute as well. But generally what we're getting here, guys, are the same kind of retests on very, very similar patterns after big bull markets. And it looks like we're in something similar to that right now. This doesn't mean that we're going to reproduce what happened in the past, but this is well worth paying attention to, because if you've been subscribed to this YouTube channel for a while now, you're going to remember that I've been talking about how Bitcoin loves to repeat certain characteristics, right? Bitcoin has certain characteristics that it repeats over and over and over. And if you're able to identify these, you can then put yourself in a position to trade these. And if you're able to do that and you are correct about it, you can make a lot of money. It's one of the ways that we've actually been able to do so well inside of 𝗓𝗡ly's VIP over the last 5 years that we've been running it. Is a big part of my job as a trader is just to make sure that I'm able to spot patterns, and then grab them by the balls, really, and take advantage of them. And that's what this YouTube channel is all about showing you as well. So we've got these very, very interesting patterns here, which I think are just worth paying attention to, because Bitcoin has, now come down to this trend line again for the 3rd time, potentially getting that 3rd retest. And we don't tend to get much more than 3 on this very, very long-term scope. And that potentially does trigger a massive pump. So I think this lines up with some really, really cool things. And if we take a look at what this chart is showing us as well, this just kind of illustrates the timeline of, how long it took for these bear markets to resolve, for lack of a better word. And on this occasion here, again, super far back, we're not going to pay too much attention to it, but we're looking at about 210 days. What is this? I don't know, like 7 months or whatever. On this occasion here, 567 days. On this occasion, 470. So a little bit closer, right? These two time frames looking a little bit closer. And on this occasion so far, we're looking at roughly a 539-day time horizon as well. So definitely something that looks like, we're kind of in line with the other, I don't want to say bear markets, because how we define this will vary, but we are looking somewhat in line in terms of time frames, to get some sort of resolution with these kind of patterns. But this isn't where it gets really, really cool. This is just to show you that, this might be something that's worth paying attention to, right? There might be a little bit of validity here, and again, it's all because of things like the fear and greed index as well, right? I mean, to see that we're flatlining in extreme fear for so long, I mean, really, to those of you who are paying attention, this should be a really, really big sign that actually things might be, kind of moving towards the side of the bulls just in terms of the long term. I mean, you might strongly disagree with me, and you'd have really good reason to strongly disagree with me because we've dropped down by so much, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, when we show signs like this, generally, guys, it doesn't mean anything particularly bad. I mean, this is exactly what we see before big moves to the upside. I was screaming this from the rooftops, when we started to get that pump from kind of 19,000, where was it? Yeah, around here, from kind of 19,000 all the way up to 21k, and obviously the only reason that this rally even ended was because of the FTX drama, and we know that this wasn't a crypto problem, this wasn't a Bitcoin problem, because indices like the S&P 500, they kept on rallying after this point, right? If we look at the 5th of November, that's kind of where the uptrend ended for Bitcoin. If we take a look at the 5th of November on the S&P 500, things just kind of kept going up and up and up ever since then, right? This was roughly where the 5th of November was on this chart. So S&P 500 kept rallying up, and we know that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are very closely tied together when, things are normal. So I think it's fairly safe to say that this kind of dump that we saw for Bitcoin, it wasn't really even a Bitcoin problem. It was just kind of, the wider crypto industry getting a little bit shaken from fear and uncertainty and doubt. And that I think is a really, really strong sign, because it's showing us that all other things being equal, the fear and greed index flatlining is a really reliable indicator. And again, it's been flatlining for quite a while. If we zoom out, look at this on the yearly time frame here. We were sideways for a really, really long time in extreme fear. We did manage to get up kind of close to greed with that rally, again, peaking roughly 5th, 6th of November. But after that, we're right back down into extreme fear again. And this is the same setup we had when we were able to get a move up. So am I saying we're definitely going to get a move up? Obviously not. If that's what you're thinking from everything I'm saying on this video so far, then this YouTube channel obviously isn't for you. You're not capable of nuanced thought. But, if you are seeing eye to eye with me here, where, we've got similar kind of situations playing out right now, well then here we are. I think we are in a pretty damn decent position, and again with this kind of time frame that we're seeing as well, looking pretty solid to me, ladies and gents. And if we take a look at some of the pumps we saw previously, again, paying less attention to what happened before, because it's really just not something we can produce again, but a 40,000% pump. I don't even know what that looks like. That's like a 410 times gain. I don't even know. I don't want to know. An 8,900% pump the next time. Still crazy, but not nearly as high. Over here, a 1,200%, 1,300% gain. So this was kind of like a 13, 14 times return, from that absolute low to our absolute high, right? From $3,100 to $69,000 is, whatever, like a 13 times increase in price. And if we end up kind of, if we just kind of look at this trend line, it's not really a trend line, but this kind of, curved line right here, which by the way is not technical as analysis goes. It's not really technical analysis, to use a curved line like this, but just for purely demonstrational purposes, just so we can try and understand a little bit and just visualize what we're looking at a little bit better. If we're looking at something similar, also with a similar time frame, right? So again, we look at this, like each of these pumps, they generally lasted kind of 750 days, 850 days, 900 days. If we take this, to be a little bit longer, let's call it 1,000 days. Let's, because I think it's fair to say these are getting longer, right? I mean, our bull phases are getting longer, our bear phases potentially getting longer depending on how you slice it as well. 750 days, big increase. We jump up by 100 days for the next bull market, jump up by another 50 days for the next bull market. Is it fair to say that we jump up by another 50 to 100 days for the next bull market, assuming we get another bull market? Obviously nothing is guaranteed. Is it reasonable to suggest that that might be the case? I think so. I think that's fairly safe to say. So to stretch this out a little bit and then just take really, really, really rough approximations, just drawing a little bit of a kind of percentage move up to the top trend line here, giving us a speculative target of $120,000, which would be a 450% pump, from kind of a little bit higher than where we are right now. It all looks pretty juicy to me, guys. It all looks pretty damn good, in all honesty. I mean, I know that there's a million reasons that you can doubt this and that you should be doubting this right now, because the market is in a very bad position in the short term. But at the same time, guys, I think this is kind of hard to deny. I think it's hard to deny that we've got a fairly good development for Bitcoin here, where we have actually formed the same pattern that Bitcoin has performed many times previously. We've done the same thing again after very similar time frames as well. Is this time different because we're in a cycle of rate hiking? probably is this time different because the economy in the whole world is just not in a good position. Probably, right? I mean, these are things that are probably going to be affecting the market at least a little bit, if not a lot. But at the same time, just looking at this in terms of raw numbers, things that don't lie to us, things that, throughout history have proven to be extremely reliable for Bitcoin, doesn't mean they're going to be reliable now, but they certainly have been in the past. And you know what? If you are betting on things like this on the whole, you'd be doing pretty well. Well, we've got some really, really interesting data right here to take a look at. But here's the bittersweet thing, right? Here's where this gets really, really interesting. I mean, anyone can just, pluck a number out of thin air, just like that, and talk about $120,000 Bitcoin target. But I think what people are really going to struggle to digest is the fact that Bitcoin just kind of, could end up reaching some sort of permanent top. If we stretch these lines out a little bit more, and take a look at what, a real kind of exponential rally like this would generally look like in the real world. I mean, they're not going to keep, just going parabolic forever. Eventually, things are going to slow down a little bit. And this would actually make a lot of sense. The reason that I think this would make a lot of sense is to do with mining, right? If we take a look, what is the number? At the moment, there are 900 new Bitcoins, entering the market every day, or not necessarily entering the market, but being minted every day, through mining. After the halving, that's going to drop down to 450, because obviously that number drops by 50% every time there's a halving for Bitcoin. But those Bitcoins are sooner or later going to have to be sold on the market, right? I mean, people are not mining just for no reason. There are fixed costs, and unless you think that Bitcoin is going to become the world reserve currency and whatever other hopium you're smoking to make you believe that that's indeed the case, you are still going to have to go into dollars or whatever the currency is, to pay your fixed costs and so on. And so, as these Bitcoins keep potentially getting higher in value, that is going to still create a lot of selling pressure, and I think that, like I said, with things slowing down, with Bitcoin really getting tamed, and falling in line with much more traditional finance, just in general. I mean, this bull market proved it to us, because this bull market wasn't nearly as big as some of the ones that we saw previously, right? If we're going to continue to produce patterns like that, well, don't be surprised, ladies and gents, if things really do slow down and we see quite a tightening of this market. This time frame lines up really well with some analysis that I shared with you previously, where if we really look at this time frame here, we're looking at like 2025, 2026 to potentially be where we actually get a global recession. This is a whole different video, where we actually get a global recession, and this is just kind of like a mini fart, and then we have a new spring, and then things get really bad around here. I talked about this with you guys on one recent video or live stream. If you want me to cover that again, just let me know in the comments. But if you have been subscribed, shout out to those of you who have. You are going to know that I was talking about that. I didn't mention it too much. It's really not something that I'm an expert in talking about, but I think it's interesting that the timeframes line up, even with these extremely rough approximations on this chart right here. And bottom line, guys, again, when we kind of take a look at how this kind of thing has impacted the markets before, it's not something that I want to brush off so easily, especially when I think that a lot of people are going to have a really hard time swallowing these kind of ideas and digesting the idea that Bitcoin could actually be, potentially reaching some sort of bottom, especially considering that we've painted very, very similar patterns before and it has resulted in bottoms. I think that with those kind of factors in mind, this is at least worth a little bit of attention. I'm still definitely overall not as pessimistic as most people are. I fully concede that this market in terms of short-term analysis still looks pretty horrible, right? I mean, it's hard to see where this is a bullish chart in terms of the technicals on this short-term chart right here, but where it's a lot easier to make some sort of argument that things might not actually be as bad as people think, is simply when you take a couple steps back and you bear in mind that actually, we're at these kind of market lows. Bitcoin is sustained. Guys, I really want you guys to keep this in mind. Bitcoin has sustained so much incredibly bearish, destructive news. I mean, we've seen some of the worst news that's hit the industry in so long, and very much, having some sort of contagion effect with companies dropping like flies throughout this year, and a lot of that happening in this month in November of 2022. It's just constant bad shit, liquidity problems and insolvency and all these nasty words just being thrown around the space constantly, and Bitcoin sees one dump and that's it, and the dump takes 5 days, and then kind of from that point we're now touching like 2.5 weeks, pushing into 3 weeks. We still haven't seen a reaction, guys. We still haven't seen the market drop even lower. Does that mean we won't? Absolutely not, right? I mean, this could just be a bit of a lagging effect, and then bam, another big hurricane hits the market, and then things just tumble way lower. Absolutely could happen. It would be very likely for something like that to happen, in my opinion. But at the same time, I'm just looking at the facts. I'm looking at the fact that in a bear market, guys, whenever there's really bad news hitting the market, like we've been constantly seeing over these last kind of 17 days since we entered this price range, in a bear market, when we get bad news, prices tend to drop. And that just hasn't happened. It just hasn't happened. I'm only stating facts, right? I mean, if you're starting to get offended or like this is really causing you to question your beliefs or whatever, maybe this is something to look into a little bit more, because this is something that I haven't been able to take my mind off. I wish I could jump on the bandwagon with the rest of you guys and just say everything's looking absolutely horrible, which is a lie, obviously. I don't wish, but bottom line, what I'm seeing here is really, really hard for me to ignore. I mean, short term, yeah, I mean, all the same things that I said in the previous video are super valid, right? I mean, if we were to lose an area of support like this, we're probably going to tumble way lower, and so on and so forth. You already know the deal. But in terms of these more I don't want to say real, but quite significant longer term signs that we've been seeing in the market with the fear and greed index, and just the fact that the market isn't seeming to respond particularly bad to bearish news at the moment, I think that this is something to keep in mind. It's also the dollar, which is something that I think is worth paying some attention to, at least. This is going to open in about 26 hours from the time of me recording this video now. But, the dollar still does have a little bit of a drop to go. And if the dollar does resume this downtrend, especially now that it's already had a bit of a recovery here, it could be ready to take another leg down. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the case. We could end up going sideways a little bit and then continue down, or recover back up. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. But, generally, if we're in a really aggressive downtrend and we have one nice recovery like this, that's enough for the market to then start tumbling lower again. Now that we've had a little bit of space from all of the drama, is it fair to say that if the S&P 500, if the dollar keeps dropping down and indices like the S&P 500 start to rally up again, is it fair to say that Bitcoin might see a little bit of that sunshine too? I think it is. I think it is quite safe to say, I think it is quite fair to say that might be the case. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to be paying attention to right now in this market. There's a lot of beautiful trading opportunities here. One of the main ones that I've outlined, which I'm still on the fence about, to be quite honest with you guys, but it's definitely something that I think looks pretty clean, is just kind of looking at this range here and seeing how, again, from a very short-term perspective, there are some really nice gaps to be traded here, like a 4.7% drop. But if we get down there, you guys already know my thoughts. I think we will be going all the way down to this level, which I know you can't see the price, but this is a $13,800 Bitcoin. It would be a 15% drop. With a little bit of leverage, 5x, 10x leverage, this turns into a 75%, 150% profit. Definitely looks something very, very cool indeed. And when we take a look at that longer term chart with the weekly time frame, for example, just to put a little bit into a long position, it's tempting. It's something that I'm definitely thinking about. I haven't actually pulled the trigger on anything like that yet, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in doing. And I really think that now might be a good time for it, given that this is such a hard idea for people to digest at the moment. And if you're looking for an opportunity to do something like that, but you want to trade risk free, guys, I want you to check out BitGet with the link in the description down below. They're offering you $400 to trade this, with a very, very easy deposit bonus. Compared to what other exchanges are offering, this is a huge deposit bonus, very, very easy to get. All you got to do is deposit anything above $4,000, trade a little bit, and you get $400 for free. You can chuck that into any trade you like, because that is free money. And if you make profit using these $400, you can withdraw it. You can keep that money, which is really, really cool. BitGet going a couple steps further here with a $30,000 reward as well. These are both great options for crypto. BitGet, by the way, being available anywhere in the world without a KYC, without a VPN and without KYC. And then the other option that I just want to bring to your attention for things like the S&P 500, available right here on Prime XBT, another absolutely brilliant exchange. Their name is cut off. Let me show you their name. An absolutely brilliant exchange, one that I've been using for years, also allowing you to trade commodities like gold, commodities like oil, indices like the S&P 500, even Forex pairs. There's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff going on right here. And you can trade all of this with a Bitcoin deposit too. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Prime XBT offering you 7K, BitGet offering you $400, but a very easy $400, and Bybit offering you 30K. I don't even want to do the math on this shit. This is like $37,000 in bonuses. Absolutely huge stuff. Insane, absolutely insane stuff. The links are all in the description to check those things out. And if you're interested in jumping inside of 𝗲𝗡ly's VIP, I want to remind you guys that we are running a flash 60% off sale for Black Friday. So go ahead and take advantage of that if that's something that you think you'd be interested in. With that though, really hope you've enjoyed this video. You know what to do if you have. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.